Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Travis Hunter, joined by my co-hosts, my sister and my brother-in-law.
Hi, I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
We've always been massive fans of horror films, so we decided, why not start a podcast? This week, we're broadcasting live from underneath the staircase of Amberson Hall, discussing the 1982 campy horror anthology classic that is Creepshow. The film was directed by George A. Romero, written by Stephen King, and with makeup done by Tom Savini, it's a veritable who's who of horror. The film is a throwback to the controversial horror comics of the 1950s, and is a quite fitting tribute with grim horror, ghouls, and gore. So, Creepshow. You guys want to talk about the first time you ever saw it, or watched it, or what you thought about it?
Oh, I remember being a kid watching it, and I have two older brothers, so whatever they watched, I had to watch, and that used to scare me as a kid. But of course, I was like 5.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know how old we were. I'm pretty sure we were too young
Oh, absolutely.
to be watching
Yeah.
it. But yeah, we were exposed to all that horror stuff from our
From
mom
the
when we
get-go.
were when
Yeah.
we were very, very young.
I think what's weird to me is rewatching it this time around. I didn't realize as a kid the difference between horror and campy horror.
For sure.
You just see ghouls
Right,
and you're
right.
like, shit.
Oh
Yeah,
shit!
Yeah. Like there's no switch in your brain that understands that it's not this super serious thing,
Right.
you know? But did you feel any different watching it now? Again, I know we've seen it since we were children, but
I mean, Creepshow is almost like a warm blanket to me.
no, yeah.
Like, if somebody watched it objectively for the first time in 2020, they could almost be like, that movie sucked. This movie, like, it
Yeah.
is so steeped in nostalgia. It's always going to be an A+ movie for me. So watching it again, it's like putting on slippers or like getting under a blanket. Like, that's how I feel when I watch
right, it's like
Creepshow.
a movie you can watch over and over.
Yeah,
and
it's
it never
like
gets
it's
old.
comforting.
Right.
It's like it's always been a part of my life, which is
No,
kind of
yeah.
weird to say, but
No,
yeah,
and if it's on, I'll watch it.
100%.
Like, that's just kind of how it
Yeah,
is.
no, definitely. And when you meet somebody who's seen it, it's like,
yeah.
we're best friends now.
All right, so before we bury ourselves neck deep in the sands of this film, we'd like to issue a warning for spoilers. Podmortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't want to be spoiled, please go watch the film. We all recommend it. Then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers at all, then let's get this Creepshow on the road. So the film begins with a frame story, kind of involving a father and a son arguing over a horror comic. It's kind of replaying what I imagine happened a lot in the 1950s. Of some dad finding
Sadly, yes.
a horror comic and being like, what is this? And then losing their mind on the kid.
The dad was an asshole.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he was the worst.
How about the kid just calling him out for his dirty magazine?
Dude!
He just,
That was probably my favorite part of the intro.
And the mom just taking it.
yeah,
though.
Yeah.
It's
since-
just-
She's like,
what's
I know.
happening?
She knew.
Yeah.
She
He's
knew.
like, we're going to talk dirty laundry. Let's talk dirty laundry.
Let's do
Why
this.
why does the dad look like Al Franken? Why does he?
He
I
did,
couldn't
honestly,
stop. I was like, what?
Like, why
Who does
is
he
he
remind
in
me
that?
of?
Where do I know you from?
Yeah.
Is it Stuart Small?
Yes, yes.
Smalley, yeah.
The sweater,
'Cause it was
and
the
hair.
blonde. Yeah,
I was
he
like,
looked
what
exactly
the hell
like
is
him.
that?
The father is played by Tom Atkins. If you recall, he's in The Fog and Halloween 3, which oddly is getting some kind of renaissance. A lot of people are saying it's like the best Halloween film, but
Is it?
Halloween
Yeah.
3, which one is that?
it's the one without Michael Myers.
I don't even remember
So
that one.
fuck Halloween 3?
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I
So quotes Halloween
Yeah.
3?
not so much. But the more interesting thing is that the son in the scene is played by Joe Hill, who's the son of Stephen
Oh,
King.
I
I
love
did not
Joe
know
Hill.
that.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
totally
even
Joe
know
Hill.
that.
Yeah.
It's so funny because he looks exactly like Stephen King.
No, he's his clone.
even more
Yeah.
so now.
Oh, he definitely.
No, now, yeah, she's shown me pictures of him now.
Definitely.
And it does.
His book that just came out, Joe Hill's book, Full Throttle, it's like a short story book. He tells a story about falling in love with horror ever since he was a kid, and obviously who his dad is, and then working with Tom Savini. And he told a story about working on Creepshow,
Right.
and then the scene at the beginning when he gets slapped, they did the makeup to make it look like he got hit in the face, and his dad had taken him to go get food. at a drive-thru. And the lady at the drive-thru called the police because they thought that there was this battered child.
I bet Tom Savini was like, yeah,
Yes.
my makeup is
Good
the
job.
shit.
Yeah,
better than
yeah,
an
I believe
award.
that.
Yeah. So the mother is kind of
Oh yeah, she's
consequential.
wallpaper.
Like,
yeah,
I
I
kind of
know.
felt bad about that.
Totally non-existent.
But so the dad throws the kid's comic in the garbage. He's
Right.
done. He goes back. The mother's like, that was a little harsh. And then he...
That's why God made fathers, babe.
That's why God made
God made
fathers, babe.
Because fuck
like-
moms.
Yeah,
They don't.
no.
Fathers
And
get shit
I
done.
felt bad because she's just sitting there sewing and he's just drinking a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was
all
half
foam.
foam. Yeah, which was half foam.
It's not a good...
I don't know
not
who
a
taught
great
you
beer.
how to pour a beer.
No, yeah,
that
but
was terrible.
that's all head, my
Yeah.
friend. Dog shit. But they're hanging out in the living room, and unbeknownst to them, their son is just getting visited.
Yeah, and how is that kid not scared? He's
No,
just
he
like,
was-
oh yeah.
Dude,
He was-
what's up?
He was so happy. He was stoked even. He was
Yeah.
smiling like, this is what I asked for. Like he was ready for it. So I think the dad might have wanted to chill out on the horror comics because he's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
Kid's fine.
he's,
He doesn't worry.
He's totally
right, he was
fine.
probably right in taking it away from him if he's that comfortable with the
Maybe.
No,
goal.
that's true. Yeah.
Or his
Maybe one
fucking-
would say too
All
comfortable.
right, dead body in the window. He's all right with it.
Yeah.
He's like,
So the intro music I like a lot.
Love it. I
Right.
love all the
No,
music
yes.
in this movie, I would say. Great music. Suspenseful, cheesy, over the top.
which I do want to say that, and I had forgotten because it was something from when I was a teenager, but hearing it now, I realize that 3-6 Mafia sampled that track,
No
that
shit.
opening
Oh, shit.
music for some of their songs.
That's
And when we watched it, before, I was like, where do I know that from? That's a
crazy.
3-6 Mafia song. I was
Really?
like, that. Yeah, I was
Dude,
like,
that
that's
is
where I
so
heard it from.
crazy.
No, that's badass. That and also with the intro, you kind of get the feel of how they're going to be going with the comic book situation
no,
and the
yeah.
art and everything.
Which I
like
love.
That. Yes.
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 Which I love.
And because that comes up a lot with like the turning of pages and
Yes.
whatnot, and
The word bubbles and the
Yeah.
whatnot. And the creep looks fantastic.
Right?
Art
yes.
design on the creep, top notch.
It's so good. That brings us to the first tale in this anthology, which is Father's Day.
yes.
Father's Day begins with a family. They're seated in a parlor awaiting the arrival of a woman called Aunt Bedelia. Mm-hmm. The family is waiting and they're kind of gossiping about her, specifically about the fact that she murdered her father, a guy called Nathan Grantham. Each of the relatives, including Nathan's granddaughter Sylvia, his great-grandchildren Richard and Cass, are taking turns telling the story to Hank, Cass's husband, who married into the family and doesn't really know the full
Right.
story of what's going on. And Hank is played by Ed Harris in one of his first film roles. He was 32.
It's the dancing one, right?
Yes,
Yes.
it is. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. And we'll get to that.
We will get there.
100%. So the story goes, I guess, Aunt Bedelia was acting as her father's nurse after he had a stroke. And then from the flashbacks, we see that he was kind of a total asshole.
A total piece of shit.
Just the
Yes.
worst. Slamming his cane on his chair,
Yes.
asking for shit. I feel like there are kinder ways to go about getting what you
100%.
want.
I mean, that's not the way to get somebody to make you a cake.
no.
I think that's the wrong way to go about that.
And am I wrong in thinking cakes are supposed to be a surprise? Like
Where's my fucking
yeah.
cake?
And he called her a bitch.
He did.
Wanted that cake.
He wanted
He
the cake.
wanted the
It was
He
made.
did.
Let her
Yeah.
frost it. Let her decorate it.
It's taking too long.
No, and her frosting technique was kind of terrible. She literally just squeezed the whole thing. It looked great
Looked
until
like a
she started
brain.
getting angry.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
I mean, being called a bitch will do that to you.
I could imagine. So basically, I guess they have a long history. Wikipedia called her a spinster, which I feel like is kind of an offensive term because it's not even completely true because she was betrothed.
She was in love.
She was in love with a man, and then her father had him killed.
Yep.
And then she's still making him his cake, and he called her a bitch.
Jesus.
He's terrible. So she got sick of it. Obviously, she grabs a marble ashtray and knocks him over the head with it and kills him.
AKA what he had coming.
Yeah, he
One
get
could
what was
say,
coming to him.
yes.
Yeah, he did not get that cake.
He did not.
No.
He's very upset over such things. The interesting point that I didn't realize until this time around is that the family, they owe their wealth to
To her.
Bedelia killing Nathan.
That's why, and I really didn't notice until this time around that they all seem like pretty shitty people.
Yes.
Yeah,
I didn't
they
catch
were
that
all
before.
pretty
I
bad.
really
No,
tried to
yeah.
look at it at this time around because we were doing this objectively. They seem like pieces of shit.
Oh, absolutely.
They're eating ham to, to celebrate this man's death.
Yeah.
Literally,
and they
that's what
meet
they're
every
here
year
for.
to
Every
be like,
year.
fuck you, Nathan.
Oh, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
She's what did they say? She's you could set your watch to her. She's
Yeah.
gonna go talk shit to him at his grave. Then she's gonna come inside. We're gonna eat some ham.
Dude, it's just
once a year.
It's a routine.
It's a routine.
It's incredible.
And as a kid, I'm like, all right. I'm
no,
like,
yeah, I don't know why. And then once things start going haywire, I was like, oh, these poor people. No,
These
No,
poor people.
no, dude, not at all.
Once again, I feel like a recurring theme here is people getting shit that's coming to them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no,
It's kind of like
the
a
whole
thread
time.
through the
100%.
Yeah. So, like you said, Bedelia does finally arrive, and she stops at her father's grave to talk some shit.
Yes.
The weird thing that I didn't notice until this time around is, first of all, she admits to the murder at his graveside,
yeah.
admits to covering it up
Yep.
and everything. But when she spills the whiskey, it's almost like the whiskey caused him to
Yeah.
rise from the dead.
Well, plus she took one
Maybe
drink
it
and then
did.
dropped it.
That's
And
true, too.
Yeah, it was
Why
like,
would you
what?
bring the whole bottle?
Yeah, if you're
Also,
gonna take a sip and then
where
just
did
throw it on the
her
floor.
her accent come from?
I don't know.
I noticed that too. I was gonna say something when we were watching it, but I was like, she's covering something. I was
No,
like,
yeah.
Where did her accent come from?
It's very weird. Sylvia kind of has an accent. Nobody
Not
else
like
does.
that.
No.
But my fun fact that
What's
I had
that?
to reveal is when I was a kid, I had no idea what the fuck she was saying at the grave. Not a word.
Dude, no.
Not a word.
Yeah. I thought she was just crazy. I think it was the Kilometra
Yeah.
part. I was like,
Jet overturned.
is
I'm like,
that
what are you
patois?
talking about?
She got drunk and then just got all English all of a sudden. Yeah.
It brings it out of
Yeah.
her.
Oh my god.
But with the whiskey bringing him back to life, it's not a great ad for Jim Beam. Or it's a great ad.
or it is a great
It could
ad.
be the best ad. So he shoots his hand up from the ground because he's ready. And this is one thing that I have to point out. You can take The Walking Dead. You can take like all these zombie movies. I understand it looks campy, but this is the greatest looking ghoul.
100.
No,
I,
yeah.
I literally wrote A+ practical effects.
No, yeah.
literally.
But
Fantastic
that's,
still.
That's what I was telling the kids that, like, because they like watching it, and I told them it's different now from when you watch horror movies because you can see the
Right.
CGI or you can whatever. As to older horror movies, they had to work with
It was
what they
practical.
had.
Yes.
So they tried to make it look as good as possible. So when you seen it, it was like, holy shit, that looks
Yeah.
semi-real.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that real? So, they had to bust their ass to make it look
Oh
good.
yeah.
And it looked fantastic.
And
No,
Tom
yeah.
Savini. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
come
the
on.
Sex machine, man. That's-
Sex machine.
You met him.
You have a photo
yeah,
of Tom
oh, yeah, I
Savini.
did.
Yeah.
Got to blow that one up and put it on
Yeah.
the wall.
Exactly.
Legend.
But no, I was just kind of in awe of how well it stood up
Oh, it
to the
still
test
looks
of
great.
time. And because I've watched movies that are like 10 years old and the CGI looks like shit.
Yeah.
But the practical effects
They
are
age. They
always
age well.
No,
because
yeah.
they're real.
They're
They're
solid.
there.
Exactly.
But yeah, favorite ghoul of all time. After he gets up from the ground, she like cowers in fear because she can't believe it. She's been talking shit for 7 years, and then finally she spilled some
It's
whiskey.
You're surprised he comes back?
Yeah, right.
I've had enough. Yeah.
So he gets out, strangles her. And this is a very important point for me personally, is this is, I think, the first time that the lighting comes into play. When the red and blues.
Right,
Yep.
they do. It does. It
Love
does
it.
do that.
It's
Love it.
beautiful.
Yep.
And it's just so simple. It's just a
No,
change in
yeah.
lighting, and it just creates this like
Atmospheric.
yes,
Yeah.
and the music, and then the comic feel and everything is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So he's asking for his birthday cake, and it's
Father's
been
Day.
7 years.
Right.
since-
Father's Day cake.
Father's Day.
Father's
cake.
Day,
Yeah,
yeah.
this-
Which is that a
Father's
thing?
that's a great question.
Right.
I did not.
Right. I usually just expect the kids to get me a mug or make something out of dirt and sticks.
But
and
where's
then-
my mug? Doesn't have the same.
it doesn't have
I
the
thought-
doesn't have
cake.
the
yeah.
same ring to it.
and the cake is sweet, so it's a little contrast between all the murder.
Yeah.
So Meanwhile, while she's getting strangled, there's a dance party breaking out.
Unnecessary
in the house,
dance party.
And it's the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I
Is
wrote
the guy-
unnecessary awkward dancing.
Right, because the guy sounds like Mario Cantone, but he looks like Scarface. It's like, this guy's just dancing around, and so the guy is married to the sister. That's
Right.
outright,
Yes.
and
Right.
then the other guy is his
Her brother.
Yeah,
right?
her
Okay.
brother, yeah.
Okay.
So the dance party gets broken up by Sylvia because she's had enough, and so have I.
Well, it seems as though they only have the one song.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's up
No,
with that?
yeah.
Because it plays
later
later.
on-
It was a cassette. It was 1982. I guess we got to take that into account as well. So Hank goes outside for a smoke. Hank is Ed Harris.
The husband, right.
Right.
One thing I did think that was kind of odd was that when he went out for a smoke, he pulled his cigarette from one shirt pocket.
I noticed
and
that
pulled his match from the other shirt pocket.
yeah.
I would think you would keep those together.
Yeah.
I noticed that
Yes.
too.
Or maybe that's just how they did things back then. I just thought it was
don't
very
know.
awkward.
When I used to smoke, I would keep my lighter as soon as there was enough room in the cigarette pack with the cigarette.
No,
Right.
we're gonna utilize every pocket in
Every
the
pocket.
shirt.
Right.
Every goddamn pocket.
It's
in
a
the shirt.
utility, man. You gotta.
I paid for these
Gotta
pockets.
keep 'em
and this
busy.
in the pocket.
Yeah.
The shirt was double because of the extra pocket. So, to my recollection, he hears a noise of some kind and goes to investigate.
Right.
He sees the bottle on the ground and picks it up.
As one does.
Yeah. And by the way, it was almost empty, so that's even less of a reason to pick it up.
Right.
Also, it's open and on the
Wasn't
ground
he
in the
gonna
graveyard.
drink
That
it?
doesn't hurt.
Yes, he
Was
was.
he gonna drink it?
Yeah, he
Right.
was.
turned it up to
Yeah,
drink
he
it.
turned it up
yes.
to drink it, and he
Yes.
fell into Nathan's grave.
And he looked so happy when he fell.
Yeah.
He did. He
He
was
was-
like,
Because he found.
yeah,
I
but-
feel like this is like a 45-minute ad for whatever whiskey that was.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
well-
Jim Beam. Yeah.
And he didn't even notice that his sister was next to him, or that or
Oh,
the
the
sister-in-law,
aunt.
the
Yeah,
aunt,
the
or
aunt.
whatever was
Yeah.
next to him. He's just, what's happening?
No,
But,
and okay, so he's in the grave. The stone is above his head, and it's starting to inch towards falling
Right.
on him. He does
So
nothing.
let's just look at
no,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let's just examine
What
this.
got to me was that he's the thing is inching closer to fall on him, but when they show him, the dad is doing that. He's pulling his arm, so he's got superpowers now because he's dead.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, he's a zombie.
He
but
got
he's
it from the whiskey.
What is it, telekinesis or something? He's like, come to me. He's like,
Yeah.
what happened
And it
here?
worked.
Yeah.
I was so confused by that because I thought that he was behind pushing
I
the
did
stone.
too.
Yeah.
I
Even
thought,
when I was a kid, I thought
did
that.
too.
And then so when he comes back around and he's like Rick James,
Yeah, he is, yeah.
it's got that orange aura.
He does. Give it to me, baby.
And it works and it falls on him. But yeah, that was weird too because he's
It
reaching
works,
out
is
and
the
he,
bottom
he
line.
grabbed Aunt Bedelia's wrist and he took way too long to realize it was a human wrist. I feel like I know what a wrist feels like.
Right, who's laying next to me in this
Yeah.
hole? What the hell?
And so he's dead.
Right.
With
Right.
the really satisfying.
Oh
thing
yeah,
lands
very
on his head.
very nice thud.
Very good.
So Sylvia then goes to look for Ed Harris because they were listening to music again. Richard
Again,
and Cass. And it
Right.
was the
yes.
same song.
Same thing.
Don't Let Go.
Don't let go.
Was that made for the movie?
I don't know. Are we gonna get sued for me singing that?
I think you can just sing that amount, and then that's it. She goes to check on Ed Harris, and as she's doing that, she encounters. I guess is she the maid? Is she the housekeeper?
I think it's
Yeah.
right, the maid, right?
Something like that.
Because she was there before,
She was,
right?
and she was making dinner.
yeah, she was
Yeah.
helping make the cake
Cake as
7
well.
years
Right.
ago.
Right.
But she's dead.
yeah,
Yes.
why would he kill the maid though?
I don't
see
know.
He was
like
like,
she's
you
done
should have
anything
brought
wrong."
out my fucking cake. I
And-
think anyone involved in the cake
But
situation was about to
if
get
she
got.
wasn't involved in any of the murder or anything, then why?
No, that's a good
why
point.
offer?
And I think that it bothers me a lot because her life didn't get any better after Nathan died.
No.
She's
Yeah,
still
no, she's
working
still
in
the
that
maid.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
And
still
she
there.
dies there?
Yeah, that's not
That's classist. So Sylvia finds the maid dead. Her face is up against the glass in like a door.
Right.
And then she turns around and Nathan's waiting.
right. Oh yeah.
And he's ready. And he's comes with the quickness and the strength. And he snaps her neck.
Ooh, which looks
Yeah.
great.
Which, yes,
Looks
it looked
great.
incredible. And the way his hands covered her face as he did it, I couldn't tell if they did it by like her dressing backwards
Yeah,
and
I
turning.
don't know.
Because that head did not look fake.
No.
It didn't. It looked great.
Yeah. Or did they actually kill the actress? No.
That's how they did things back then.
Yeah. They were real.
I'm sorry.
Practical.
For the movie. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
for the
Suffer
movie.
for your art.
You signed the contract. I didn't tell you to sign the contract. So eventually, there's a lot of people being like, "Where's Poochie?" and then going to find
Yeah.
like the
basis
person.
of
Yeah,
this.
because now it's Richard and Cass's turn to go find Sylvia, and they go into the kitchen, and Nathan's corpse rounds the corner, and he's got Sylvia's severed head on a platter. All frosted and nice, and he even lit candles.
Yeah, there was a candle.
And
Even-
I got my cake.
Yes, he did, and he was very proud and very happy. Richard's scream,
Whoa!
Yeah.
not great,
Not great.
but it's kind of like a
Camp.
yes,
Camp.
but it's great in context.
It is.
If you were watching like a drama, no.
Leave something to be
no.
desired.
Yeah, but it fit, and then the background and if I recall,
It's
it
the
was like a
comic-
dolly
yes,
zoom.
Yeah.
and you see,
then
like, the
stuff
color.
in
Yes,
pattern of-
yeah.
It
yes.
looked fantastic. So freeze frame, comic frame, and that's the end of the first tale. What did you guys think of Father's Day as a whole?
You go ahead, because I mean, I do like that one, but I mean, it was okay. You know, it was goofy, and it had a lot of funny parts to it, and it was just, but like you guys were saying, the effects of it were great. Everything looked really, really good on there.
I feel like it's a tale of revenge, kind of over and over again. Bedelia getting revenge
but
on
why
her
did the
dad,
maid
and then
die?
the dad. That's
That's
not
right,
fair.
yeah,
That's
why
not
did the
fair.
maid-
That's a great
Yeah,
question.
why
And
did
then the
maid-
dad coming back and getting revenge on the family who killed him and is celebrating his
right.
death and spending his money.
No, and that's
they were all
understandable,
shitty.
though.
They
Yeah,
all
they
deserved
were,
it.
They
Oh,
were.
absolutely.
I guess except the husband, he didn't really do anything, but he was dumb. So
Yeah,
he had
but-
a. If you're gonna pick
was,
up,
yeah.
if you keep your cigarettes and your lighter in two different pockets,
Nah,
you
okay.
deserve to have a gravestone pushed on you.
Is that the rule?
And,
Yeah,
and if
that
you
was
dance,
legit.
if you dance like he danced, that's
Oh, yeah.
you got it coming.
You felt the music. You just had to dance.
Just gotta let it go through
Yeah,
you.
He still didn't deserve that cake, and he got that cake. But
True.
but
And that's the bad part, is that he was the worst,
yeah.
but he wins.
yeah,
But
he
he
still
won.
got the cake. Yeah.
Can he eat the cake?
I don't know.
Is he a
And
cannibal now?
he's a ghoul.
I mean,
Oh, I guess he's not
and
human
he's
anymore.
got superpowers. So,
Yeah.
I mean, shit, he can do what he wants, really.
You know, nobody ever talks about what happens next.
What?
Yeah, what happens after? What happens
Does he-
after
Does
that?
he eat
Does
the
he-
cake and go lay back down?
He's like,
So
that's all I
then they
wanted.
don't
That's all
die.
he
They just
wanted?
gotta watch him eat the cake.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
Because they were alive at the end.
Yeah.
And honestly,
They were just screaming in the
run.
kitchen. Just
Yeah,
run.
Get the
I don't-
he's
fuck
got
out of
the
there.
cake.
I'm not gonna watch you eat this.
Right, go ahead and eat my aunt. I'm gonna dip out.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
I'll
You
be fine.
enjoy. There's more Jim Beam in the
Yeah,
cabinet.
right.
Help
It seems you love it.
Yeah, let me get out of here.
All right, so I'm kind of in agreement with both of you. The effects are great. It's a great little revenge story. The weird thing about Father's Day is that it's not the most narrative driven of the tales,
Right.
Right.
but I feel like I have the most nostalgia towards it. Because when I
That's
think of
fair.
Creepshow, I think of
That's
Father's
the first thing
Day.
you think of.
What's the next one? The next.
The next tale is the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill.
See, when I think of Creepshow, this is what I think of.
Really?
That's
Yes.
fair.
Yeah,
That's
because
fair.
as a kid, this is the one that stood out, and even though there wasn't a lot to it, it stood out the most to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because it was Stephen King, and even as a kid, I knew who he was.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
even
We did
as a
too.
kid,
Yeah.
I knew who he was. Because he was in it. It was also just, I don't know, it was him transforming, or, I know we're going to get more into it, but, you know what I mean? That to me was Creepshow. I
Right.
always remembered that one. Out of all of them, it was this tale that
is
stood out
interesting.
to me. Yeah.
As JP said, it stars Stephen King, which is very interesting. I want to see how you guys felt about that.
I am just gonna put it out there that it's the best acting he's ever done.
100%.
ever.
100%.
He is my Lord and
he's-
Savior. He's not known for his acting.
Yeah,
No, he
he's
is
not
not.
the best, but
I will say he was pretty good in Sons of Anarchy,
That's fair.
but I think that this is his crowning achievement. It's his
Agreed.
magnum opus as far as acting is concerned. Also, Creepshow 2. Buddy, what
what
the
the fuck happened?
Great line. Okay, so Stephen King plays Jordy Verrill.
Yes.
And this one starts immediately.
Yes.
Right,
He's just
yeah.
standing
There's
outside.
no
Right away,
wasted
yeah.
time in this whole story.
Not at
Yeah.
all. So he's standing outside and he sees a meteor in the sky just crash land to Earth. I will say the meteor did not look good, but I loved the smoke effect when it hit the ground.
I
Yeah,
also
but the blast
love.
was really small.
It was.
Yeah,
I also love the blue meteor shit, as it were, that comes out.
right.
Of it. I
Yeah.
think that I still,
Yeah.
as an adult, think that looks cool.
Which I do want to talk about that in just a second
Okay.
because I had some things to
they-
say about that. So when the meteor crash lands, he immediately starts daydreaming about making some money off of this meteor. Modest dreams. He just wanted to pay off a $200 bank loan. And in his daydream, he goes to the Department of Meteors, which is at every university.
Yeah,
We all have
fantastic.
that.
All of his little fantasy sequences are so funny.
No, they're great.
They're
It's the
so
same doctor in
dramatic.
every single
Yes.
one. It's the same one.
Yeah.
They only have one
He-
department.
Yes.
He plays his father too.
his dad.
Later,
Oh,
yeah. Which may be some weird
Kinda sad.
psychological
Kind
thing
of
going
sad.
on there.
Any authority figure is played by his father.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
There's some stuff there. So after he touches the meteor, it burns him, obviously.
And he
'cause
gets sesame
Right.
seeds
it,
on his
he gets-
fingers.
yeah, his fingers are covered. His fingers are a Big Mac now. They're a sesame seed bun. So he goes and he gets some water and he pours it on the meteor because, I don't know, he was going to cool it off to take it inside, I guess.
Right.
I mean,
Not.
I don't quite understand the logic.
He's
there.
not a smart man.
No,
We've established
obviously.
this.
He is not. When he pours the cold water on, the meteor splits, and he feels like he lost his
Yeah,
chance.
I still don't understand that. It's
I don't
still a
understand that
meteor.
either.
It's just
It's-
broken
yeah.
in half.
It was from space.
He was.
Yeah.
He was very upset.
He was.
Called himself
I
a
can tell.
lunkhead.
He
Yeah.
did, which is the worst thing you
Yeah,
can call
yeah.
yourself.
I think it should be a widely used insult.
It
Yeah,
should be
that's
brought
right.
back. We're going to bring Lunkhead back. The thing that got me, and what I said I was going to talk about later, is he pours out the meteor juice, which I'm assuming would be very
Valuable.
valuable.
Right. No, yeah. Why wouldn't you leave it in there?
Fuck
Just
this
leave- yeah.
stuff, man.
I have no idea. And he did. He called it meteor shit.
He did.
But I honestly feel like the money is in that meteor juice. And it
One
looked
would think.
great.
It, I
was
love
blue.
how it looks. I still
It
love
was
how
a
it
glow
looks.
stick cutter.
Fair.
and-
It probably
Doesn't matter.
I mean,
Yeah.
it did look good
Looks
though.
so cool.
It did look cool for watching it. Then it was like, oh man, that's what I mean. What is
Yeah.
that? What they use for that? But it does look cool. It does. But why just pour it out there on the ground?
I don't know.
You,
Pour-
what I mean?
pour it
You
in the
have no
bucket.
idea what it's
Yeah,
gonna
you
happen.
literally
You don't-
have
yeah.
a bucket.
Yeah,
You're
why would
holding
you
a
do
bucket.
That? Yeah, just. I don't know.
You're just so
It's-
disappointed.
Yeah, it's like, why would you do that?
It's just making one bad decision after
yeah.
another.
I feel like that's this whole
that-
story.
No,
Very
yeah, pretty much.
So he pours the meteor juice out, unfortunately. He takes the hollowed out meteor, puts it in a bucket, and he leaves it outside,
Right.
correct? And he
Yes.
goes inside.
To drink and watch TV.
Yes, and I do want to point something out. He was watching the WWF
Yeah.
at the time.
Yes.
And Vince McMahon was the commentator, which
you
means...
know what? I wanted to make a note of that because I was like, that sounds like young Vince.
Yes.
But I was like, man, this movie's from what, 82?
82.
Yes.
I was like, was he a commentator already by then?
Yeah.
Because I know he did everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know he started as a janitor and he moved his way up. And
Right.
then I know he was a commentator for a long time. But I was like, was that Vince? I was
Yeah.
like, damn.
It's odd to think that Vince McMahon has a voice cameo in
That's
Creepshow.
Right,
very
no,
weird.
yeah.
And I
to
didn't
think.
catch that until this time around.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But that's one of those moments when he sits down to watch that and he's drinking, he's holding the bottle straight up.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And his eyes are bugged out and he's watching he looks like a cartoon. Like this whole little story. He is so funny. The faces
yeah.
he makes, like he just does such a surprisingly good job. Because as we said, he's not
Right.
he's not an actor.
I feel like George Romero's direction must have just been have fun with it, dude.
Yeah.
And you can
Like,
tell.
and you can tell he's loving it.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like I said, he did a good job. If that's what I remember as a kid from Creepshow,
that's
if somebody
the
said, then it
standout.
made an impression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it obviously did a good job.
So, he goes back inside, he's drinking, he's watching wrestling, and just outside the house, weeds are beginning to grow everywhere.
Right.
And they're starting to kind of accumulate.
Yes.
So at this point, he realizes that the sesame seed fingers, are starting to turn green.
Right.
He also realizes
What's that?
that he's been sucking on them.
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Very
he did.
bad.
He
He's
pulled
like,
his
"You've
fingers
been-"
away from his mouth.
Yeah.
He was very upset.
He's
did.
very upset.
That's right.
And he should be.
Oh, yeah. So he goes to call the doctor, but then he daydreams about the doctor amputating his
Yes.
fingers
Right.
because of this, which of course they would.
Well, yeah. I mean, your fingers got some alien stuff on them.
Yeah.
We got to get those
Yeah.
off.
So he decides against it. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. After a while, the weeds start covering his entire house and the outside, spread to everything he touches, like we said. So then he saw it on his tongue.
Yep.
He's seeing it everywhere. He makes himself a drink.
Takes the opportunity to make a drink
No,
and sit
he's
back
got
down.
the right idea, though. I mean, you're turning into Swamp Thing. What are you going to do?
I
You
feel
know
like
what I mean?
this
Swamp
is the
Yeah,
this is the equivalent of that "this is fine" meme where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just
Well, what are
fire
you gonna
everywhere.
do? You're a plant now, and you might as well just
Make a
fuck it.
screwdriver
Yeah,
and-
you
and-
know.
Plant now.
This
is your life.
Yeah,
Life.
Yeah. I will say that as a kid, I didn't know what a screwdriver was, obviously. I
Right.
didn't know it was in that thing, but it looked
Delicious.
Right.
Same.
And I don't know why.
I think the desperation with which he drinks and how satisfied he looks after is
Maybe
what
it was-
sells it.
yeah.
Because he looks very like,
And it was like 90% vodka.
No.
Oh, it
no,
was.
that's
And he
the way
put
it
the
should
bottle.
be. Right.
It's like, so he made it
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
He
he
made
did
it correct.
the right thing.
So he decides after this to go take a bath. Before he takes a bath, he's running a bath. And the bath looks
fantastic. Fantastic.
but he sees his father in the mirror.
Right.
A vision of his father, which is different from the past because before he was kind of having these like daydreams.
Yeah.
But this time he's actually having a vision,
A vision.
of
Yeah.
his father. I thought that was kind of weird. And his father's telling him, do not take a bath because it's going to make things worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And at first he seems like he's going to listen. He seems
Yeah,
up
and then
for
it
it.
just-
And then the bath looks
Too,
awesome.
Too tempting.
So he dives in.
Yeah.
But why does he have a spice rack in the corner in the bathroom?
He just-
Like, that's one thing I noticed.
never saw
did.
that.
I
noticed
looked
that.
at it and I was when we were watching it again and I looked and I was like, is that a damn spice rack in the corner? I was like, what the fuck does he have over there?
I did not notice
Yeah,
that.
I was like, right, because there's because I know some movies or whatnot they'll have little I guess Easter eggs or whatever,
Right.
like little nods, to what other directors would do or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was trying to look around and kind of peep the scene and see what's going on, and I was like, is that a spice rack in a corner?
That is
I was
hilarious.
like, I was like,
Interesting.
why does he have that in the bathroom? I was like, what do you?
Speaking of Easter eggs, which I did want to point out, that marble ashtray that Aunt Bedelia killed her father with shows up in The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. It's on the doctor's desk.
How cool.
I looked it up after I saw that, and it appears in all 5
How
stories.
fucking
Oh
cool.
wow! Yeah.
I wish I would have known that because I would have looked
Yeah.
for them.
See, that's cool when
That's
they do stuff like
badass,
that.
yes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But yeah, we'll look it up and figure out where they all
Definitely.
are, so we can
Right.
let the listeners know so they can keep an eye out. So the next time we see Jordy Verrill after he takes this bath, he is more weed than man.
Right.
Right? And so he does what I guess most people would do in this situation. He grabs a shotgun and he blows his greens out. Right?
No, yeah.
And
Yes.
then you hear on the news that the forecast is rain.
Right.
So do you see that being like this is the end of the world?
Yeah, I
At
mean,
least that area.
if the
I
water
mean-
did that
I
to
mean,
him, I mean, shit,
how
what is
many
else he
more
gonna do outside?
meteors came down?
Oh shit!
Oh,
I didn't even think about
yeah,
that.
I didn't think about that.
All
But I mean, if it turned him into that, just imagine, and then his outside turned that, that
Yeah.
way that quickly without the water. Imagine what happens when the water
Yeah,
comes.
and spreads it.
Yeah,
That's gonna be bad.
yeah, that would suck.
It's a pretty sad story, I think.
No.
And every bad thing that happened to him kind of stemmed from his own foolishness. The getting in the bath, the
Yeah.
touching the hot ass meteor. It is still steaming.
Yeah, why
came
would
from
you touch it
space.
in the first place? Why would you want to put
Pouring
your
water
fingers
on
there?
it to cool it. Like nothing.
Yeah,
He made
no,
no good
but-
decisions except for maybe killing himself. Because how do you?
Well, what else are you supposed
How
to do?
do
You're
you
a
go
plant.
on?
Yeah,
you're,
you're-
head of
you're
lettuce.
done.
What are you gonna do?
Out of lettuce.
So what do you guys think of that one as a whole?
I love it. I really like that one.
Like I said, to me, that's the one that stands out. And I do want to point out that Castle Rock was only 5 miles from where he was at.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a really cool little Easter egg.
I do want to point that out. But I do enjoy that one. And it's a little goofy and it's whatever.
Admittedly.
But
sure.
again, like I said, as an adult now, as a 35-year-old man, watching that as a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, I still remember that. So it means that it did mean something.
It made an impact.
It meant something to stay, or it was that good to where it stayed in my mind that long. And even watching it now, like you said, you could watch it over and over.
Absolutely.
It's still good. It's still good.
But no, I think that one's a great one, and anchored by a really good performance from Stephen King.
A shockingly good performance by
good.
Stephen King.
I did read that this was not his film debut. His film debut was a few years prior in another George Romero film.
I love it.
So I don't know if
That's great.
that could have maybe started the relationship that's like, the seeds of what became Creepshow.
Cool.
Right.
But I thought that was a pretty interesting thing. So that brings us to the next tale, which is Something to Tide You Over. This one stars Ted Danson
Yes.
as Harry and Leslie Nielsen as Richard.
Love Leslie Nielsen.
I know you do.
And he is so good in this.
He is great in this.
It's so weird to see him playing this kind of a role.
Right.
I was kind of...
He does it really well, though.
No, yeah, he does. But he still has white hair. It's still he's always got that iconic white hair.
1982.
That's just him, man.
Yeah.
He was born with it.
Yeah, probably.
So Ted Danson is Harry. He gets a visit from Richard, which is Leslie Nielsen, as we said. Harry's been sleeping with Richard's wife, Becky, and the chickens have finally come home to roost, to put it mildly. Richard plays a tape, like a cassette tape, of Becky crying and asking for Harry.
But before he even lets him inside, he threatens, before he even realizes who he is, he threatens that he can bench press 300.
Yeah, and then when he gets inside, he's like really cool about it. He's just like, all right, you caught us.
But I'm gonna call bullshit,
No,
Ted Danson. I don't think you could bench 300.
I think he added a few hundred.
I think he added
that. And that's the other thing, is that Ted Danson's kind of playing against type.
True.
Very serious.
I don't know
if he was on Cheers yet.
But and two, when he's telling
Cheers
him
started
that,
the same year.
Really?
Oh.
Interesting.
1982.
I did notice too when he's talking to him and telling him about that. When I can't remember if they like pan out from it or when it's like just kind of on the side. There's 2 empty glasses of wine that he has on his coffee table while he's explaining to him about what's going on. So I wonder if she had just
had been there
or
and he
she,
grabbed her up.
Snatched her.
Yeah.
He is in a
That's
robe.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
he was in a robe. That's right.
He's on a high right now.
He's
He's floating. He's
I
like,
bench pressed you.
he's like,
Testosterone is flowing.
You know what I
it's
just
like
did in
that.
there?
No, you didn't, right? You just busted a nut. You're fixing to go to sleep. Get out of here. What's wrong with you?
Oh god. So he says he's gonna see Becky.
Right.
Is what Richard promises Harry. Right.
Right.
So instead, he takes him to a beach, and at this beach, you see a shovel sticking out of the sand. Mm-hmm. And was the hole there already?
I think it was there already.
I think it was,
because he's
that's
like
right.
getting the hole.
Yeah. So,
But thing that I wanted to point out was
what's up?
we go from Ted Danson in a robe to Ted Danson in corduroy on corduroy with the button-down shirt.
So he let
So
him.
in my mind, I like to think about the scene where Leslie Nielsen is waiting in the living room while Ted Danson is putting his clothes on in the bedroom.
Well, he's
Right.
like,
and then they go.
he's like, you got to look good to see my wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get your best damn corduroy on.
And I mean it. That's pretty ridiculous. He's just sitting on the couch, just like,
Yeah,
dude,
just
hurry
kinda
up.
chilling,
We
right.
got places to be.
What's funny is Leslie Nielsen knows what's unfolding, so he's like, no, yeah, sure, take your time, Ted Danson.
Go right ahead.
So they get to the beach, they see the shovel and the hole, and at this point, Richard pulls a gun on Harry and tells him, which, by the way, Harry grabbed the shovel and he was gonna whack Richard with it, but
Yeah.
Richard's like, dude, come on,
Yeah.
come on, man. So he pulls a gun.
Get
He
in the
tells Harry to get in the hole and to bury himself neck deep in the sand.
For the
Right.
record, I would rather be shot.
Yeah,
I'd
but
rather
I
be
mean,
shot.
maybe he thought that he
wasn't
really
gonna die.
Yeah, maybe he thought he wasn't gonna die, and if he did what dude said, he was gonna save his girlfriend and him.
But I mean, my biggest question about it is, at this point, why do I trust you about anything?
Anything.
No, yeah,
I've been
yeah,
sleeping
I
with your
figured.
wife.
Yeah, right. Obviously,
And now
you
all of
wanna
a sudden
hurt
we're
me.
in your Jeep
Yeah,
together?
yeah.
Oh well, you've obviously got my best interest.
Yeah, no.
So he gets in the hole. He buries himself neck deep. Richard goes away for a while. Comes back with a television and the longest cables
Right.
I guess I've ever seen on the planet Earth.
He's got a spool of cables back there.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
It's funny because as a kid, I didn't think about the logistics of what Richard
Of how
was
it's
doing.
happening.
Right,
yeah.
I was just like, yeah, you can plop a TV anywhere, turn it on.
Yeah.
I think you need
Electricity's
power.
not
Yeah,
a thing.
electricity. So he puts the TV in front of Harry, turns it on, and it is Becky on the television. She is also buried up to her neck in sand on a beach, a little bit away from him. I took it.
That's what he said, that she lost the coin toss, so she had to be buried further up.
I've
Okay.
never been buried in sand, but would it really be that hard to get out of there?
From what
Apparently
I've heard,
so.
it's pretty tough. I've never been buried in sand either, but
I mean, if he's benching 300 pounds, you would think that he would be
Again,
able,
bullshit.
Yeah,
He
he
should
would
call
be,
him
yeah,
bullshit.
he
Just
would be
burst
able to
out
do
of
that.
there with
Like, go ahead, leave
quickness.
the TV on.
Yeah.
Yo, get out of here, right? I'll just bust out of here real
yeah.
quick.
I think it's this scene though when he starts screaming for help.
That's funny.
And there's
Oh,
but
sorry,
there's
but that's
something
funny.
so scary about the bad guy screaming for help with you to show you that there
Right,
is no
well,
help
no,
to
Joining
scream
you
for.
in it.
Yeah.
You know, I would
Yeah.
love to know the first time that was done.
I even put in my notes that it is probably
You know?
cliched at this point. Was it cliched in 1982? I don't
Maybe
know.
not.
I
yeah,
doubt it.
yeah.
But
I
that
think
is
you're
so
right. I don't
creepy
think
to
so.
me. Anything that I see it in, it is very creepy to
I
me.
know that in my timeline, that was the first place I saw it.
Fair.
Right.
Fair
no,
enough.
I
So-
can agree with that.
Yeah.
I
Every
can
time
agree
I've
with
seen
that.
it since, I'm like, they're giving him the old Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah. And can we just mention his necklace looks like a rape whistle? Leslie Nelson. Like it took me a while to figure out what it was.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what is on his neck? I was like, why does it
Is
just
he a
look like
PE teacher?
I don't know what he's got. It's like
That's how I got all that money, man.
It's like some wings with a little line or something,
Yeah.
but it looked like a rape whistle. I was like, "What is that?" I was
What's
like, "What
the
is
point
that?" Yeah,
for
I was
him?
like,
Like,
"What
what's
is
the-
happening?" I was like, "What is it?" And I didn't notice it until later on, and I guess what do you call it? The episode or in the little chapter
yeah.
or whatever. And but I was like, man, because it's just dangling from his neck, and then he's wearing the sweater though. He's got that big like.
I didn't even
wool
notice it
sweater.
How
because
did I
there
not
are
notice
some
that?
there are some damn interesting outfits. in
Oh,
this.
throughout the
No, yeah,
entirety
of course,
film.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Becky is way worse off than
Right.
Harry is right now
Mm-hmm.
because the tide is actually
Tide has already
starting to
came
roll
in
in.
for her, yeah.
And she's slowly drowning. And so Richard goes ahead, sets up a camera because he's wanting to watch this comfortably at home.
Yes, and his velour tracksuit.
Right.
Yeah, about that. He knows how to live. He's very rich. Apparently, he
Right.
owns this area.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
So why would you be worried then if your girlfriend's cheating on you? I can understand you being
'Cause
hurt,
it's
but if you
his,
have that much
that
money,
he's made that very clear. It is mine.
okay, but if
That's-
you have all this
'cause he
money,
was
then
like-
why couldn't you go get something else?
He was like, she doesn't even love you. He's like, it doesn't matter. She's mine. What's mine is mine. Like he
I
says
mean,
that
I-
several times.
I guess, but I mean, if you're a millionaire, what does it matter?
Fair.
That's
Like,
a fair
really, well,
point.
yeah. What does it matter?
I think
Go buy you something else.
Something.
go buy-
I think we should mention that really great shot of Ted Danson underwater, which is
His hair
totally
still looks magnificent.
It's
the whole time.
fantastic.
Yeah, the whole time.
totally iconic in this movie to me.
No.
That's one of the shots of
Yes.
this movie.
it's an incredible, incredible shot. The light
with
behind
him
his head
and blowing the bubbles
blowing-
out of
yes.
his nose and his hair.
So I was trying to figure that out because if I'm not mistaken, here's what I thought happened. They had Ted Danson dunk his head into like a pool
Upside down?
or some kind. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
But the thing is the bubbles flow. Would they flow that way? Because
No, they would still go to the
Right?
surface.
Yeah, no.
so they would go past
I
his
don't
chin,
know.
but they went
Yes.
above his head.
Well, or they could have had. I
They
don't
would
know.
still
That'd
go
be
to
a
the
lot.
surface,
Say
I
maybe
would
they'd have
think.
like a kiddie pool and then just kind of cut like a hole for his head.
Hey,
But
maybe.
then-
But how's
you
the
know,
water
put it-
in there?
Well, because you could put a thing around his neck to stop the water.
I don't know how the hell they did it. I don't know how they did anything.
But it did a good job,
but
though. I mean, you think it for 82,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, though. With the CGI and all that nowadays, yeah, you could do it, but then you'd be like, oh, that's fake. You know what I mean?
And it gets outdated so quickly.
Right.
Practical effects, never. Like that.
No, yeah.
When it's practically done.
But that's kind of like how you like all the stuff that happens on the thing, as you know what I mean. It looks really good, and it's like,
we'll
holy
get
shit,
to the thing.
No,
we
well,
will.
of course, but I'm just saying, with practical effects,
Love
it looks really good when they do it
Yes.
right.
Still,
it looks good.
still looks good.
No, yeah,
Absolutely. So Richard returns home. Had a long day.
Yeah. Long day of burying people up to their heads.
Which, by the way, I love the logistics of it, of him going out there and digging those holes that morning or whatever.
He had a plan.
Like, all right, gotta go get him.
He had a plan.
So he's home and he's ready to watch them drown on television. He has a lot of TVs in his house.
Right.
Some are part of a security system. I guess they're multi-purpose.
Right,
Sometimes you watch people
yeah.
drown. Sometimes you make sure no one's sneaking in.
He said, I love this stuff when he brought the TVs.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
He's a big electronics guy.
He must be, because he was talking shit to Ted Danson about not taking care of his equipment
He did.
in his apartment. He's like, you really gotta fucking do something here,
Right,
dude.
yeah.
So he's home, he's watching them drown. Harry stares down Lynn's into the camera and he swears that he's gonna get revenge.
Maybe that's when he knew he was going to be a zombie and come back. He was like, you know what, motherfucker, I'm going to come back as a zombie.
This is not over.
Right,
Well,
this ain't over.
It seems if they poured a little whiskey into the that's all I
Into the
needed.
ocean.
Yeah. So I guess they drown. That's the end of them.
Right.
That's when you get that awesome shot of Ted Danson.
Yes. So good.
Leslie Nielsen goes to collect his equipment at the beaches. He gets the cameras, gets the tripods and everything, but the bodies are gone.
And he's like, oh, they got swept away.
Yeah, that's what I'd be telling myself.
But why
That's
would
fine,
you go
it's
back
totally
for the
fine.
TV? It's ruined.
He
I
loved-
mean, of
he's
course,
a fair
yeah.
point.
That's a fair point.
It's his.
Just throw it away. Just it's gone.
Throw it, yeah, it's a wash.
And then his
no pun intended.
Yeah, no. But when he's like, the tide washed him away.
Yeah.
How did he wash him away? You buried him, or he
yeah.
buried
no,
himself.
Okay,
true.
so
but
the
yeah.
tide didn't take the little child's sand bucket.
Right, or
he
the
took
TV,
grown
but
ass
it took Ted
both-
Danson.
both of them.
300
Yeah.
pound bench pressing.
Bread
Yeah.
pressing, perfect hair.
Dancer.
Buff ass Ted Danson.
Yeah,
So he like shrugs it off. No big deal.
yeah.
No
Took him
worries.
away. Took him away. It's fine.
So he goes back home and he takes a shower. While he's in the shower, fog starts creeping in. And the fish know what's going
Yeah,
on.
see, yeah. The fish know what's happening.
The fish
you know,
are
that's
aware.
funny that you say that because I actually wrote that myself. I said the fish know what's up.
Yeah.
Because when they come, they're like, oh shit. And you
Yeah,
see
they're
them run away.
no.
They're like, no,
Yeah.
no.
We know what this
Right,
is.
you fucked up, not us.
Yeah.
They don't want
you
no
did-
static.
Yeah, you
No, not at
yeah,
all.
We don't want none of that. We didn't do that. You did that.
That was all you, man.
Once again, though, great makeup.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
In with the fog, I should have mentioned, is the waterlogged
Yes.
walking
Yes.
corpses of Harry and Becky.
Yes.
And they're ready for that revenge that he promised.
Yep.
Oh, no, yeah.
They, if I'm not mistaken, they corner him outside of his bathroom. And when they do that, then he starts blasting.
Yeah. So anyway, it just started blasting.
Yeah. And
Which is so fucking cool. The water that comes out of their gun.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
so cool looking.
It's very, very well done. And it's the guns have no effect.
Right.
Because
they're already dead,
He shoots
and they
the guy in
tell
the head
him.
and it still does nothing.
No,
Nothing.
Yeah.
I love that they tell him, like, we're dead.
Yeah.
We're dead, man. You already did it.
Just all mermaids now.
Yeah.
I was
Which-
like, what the?
I do have to say, that is one thing that bothered me. Not bothered me because it sounds so cool.
Their
But
voices?
all of the ghoul voices had the same effects on
Yes. Yes.
them.
They
Jordy
did.
Verrill
Yeah,
sounded
they
the
did.
same when he was a plant.
Yes.
That's
he did.
The waterlogged monster sounded exactly the
Yeah,
same. And
he
I
did.
think even Nathan, the ghoul at the Father's Day.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So I thought that was a little, but I
Hey, it's
mean, you found
consistency.
something, you
Well,
work with
yeah.
it works.
it. This
Go
is
with
what
it.
ghouls sound like in this universe.
Period.
So this is the part that gets me. And it kind of lends credence to, I guess, Nathan having some weird superpowers in Father's Day, which is he shuts and locks the bathroom door, and then he's like, whew, all right,
Phew.
collect yourself, Richard. Turns around, they're there in the bathroom with him.
Yep,
So there's
behind
some
him.
weird shit. Obviously enough of the fact that they came back from the dead.
Yeah.
I understand that. But Also weird that they're able to teleport,
True.
which is kind of weird.
When they're also leaving footprints and they're they're physically
so they're
there. Yeah.
It's not that. So they corner him in the bathroom now, and he loses it. You get some cool visuals of the comic styling.
The red light, and he's crying and laughing hysterically.
Yeah, because he's done.
He's lost it.
So he eventually, don't know how he gets there because we're just there now.
Right.
He's suffering the same fate as Harry and Becky. He's buried up to his neck. Now,
Quite cocky.
quite cocky
Right,
until the water hits his mouth.
He can hold his breath for a long time, though.
sad.
Yeah.
That's all it took. He was like, I can hold my breath for a
shit.
long time.
And then,
Is that what that feels
Right.
like?
It's like,
Get me
I fucked
outta
up,
here.
right?
So that's basically the end of that one. How'd you guys feel about something to tide you over?
We got another revenge story.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Sticks with
And again, a double revenge. Assholes getting revenge on assholes.
Yeah.
No, it was good.
He's getting revenge
It was
on
good.
him for the affair.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get revenge on him for the murder.
It's just how it works.
It comes full circle. So what happens to Harry and Becky?
Yeah, do they
Where do
just
they
go
go?
back into the
Are
sea?
they
or-
are
they're just
eating
part of-
cake with
Yeah. And the fish are terrifying.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
There goes the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So that brings us to the crate, which is the next tale. This one begins at what appears to be a faculty function at a university. Hal Holbrook plays Henry Northrop, and the horror icon Adrienne Barbeau
Yes.
plays his wife Wilma. I will say something interesting. The episode of Sons of Anarchy that Stephen King guest starred in, Hal Holbrook, I believe, was also
You're
in it
totally right.
because they were at his house.
yeah,
which is interesting.
He's Gemma's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
So
Uh-huh.
that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So Adrienne Barbeau's character is named Wilma, but for some reason likes everyone to call her Billy. I guess
I don't know.
William,
Yeah.
Wilma, Bill.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a little
guess.
loose. I don't trust it.
My first note is Billy is such a bitch.
No, she's the
Yes,
absolute worst.
No, yeah.
The note I have is I think that Wilma, the entire character, had her act stolen by Roseanne Barr. Because
No,
she
yeah.
acted.
She was unnecessarily drunk or whatever.
No, it was
going
bad.
on. Yeah, it was
She was crude. She was coarse.
so
Did you
funny,
notice she said the C word at one point and they ADR'd it?
I did
and she
not.
said like crotchety, but her mouth straight up said the C word.
I did not.
I guess that was-
I didn't know that.
Some things are a little too coarse for
yeah,
Creepshow, I guess.
I did notice
in
that-
82, I was like, nope.
Yeah,
not
too
doing that.
much.
Not
Reel it
doing
in.
that.
Yeah.
I did notice that they have everyone in the function in these beigey outfits.
Yes.
And
Yes,
she is in
yeah,
this
she's-
red maroon.
Yeah, she's fucking.
With her loud ass mouth and her
yeah,
She-
that lady
embarrassing.
was.
She did not
Yeah.
fit in.
No.
Not at all. And Hal
To say the
Holbrook,
least.
he's not into it.
No.
He actually has a lot of daydreams.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes. What was
He-
the party even for again? I don't even
I don't know if
remember
it was
what it
I
was
don't think
for.
they said.
They never
No,
said. Yeah,
they
they
just-
never said anything, right?
Just want to get together.
Yeah, just fuck it.
But he daydreams about shooting her.
Yeah,
in the
he
head.
had a lot of daydreams.
Yeah, and he got a standing ovation.
Yes, he
for
did.
that.
Right? He's like,
Yeah.
he's a good shot.
Which,
It's like-
which may have happened in real life if he
did.
did
No,
that.
honestly, because they
To be fair.
after Billy kind of shows who she is as a character, they cut to inside, and this old lady is like, "Why did he invite her?"
Yeah.
And it's like
Everyone
it's his
is
wife.
very
Yeah.
turned off by
They
Billy.
can't
no,
stand it.
yeah.
Henry, which is Hal Holbrook's character, he has a colleague called Dexter, who I guess is kind of a sleazeball because he was hitting on
a student.
and flirting with a student
Yes.
during this faculty function.
Yes.
But Dexter gets a call from a
Right.
janitor at the university about a crate that he's found underneath the stairs in Amberson Hall. And so Dexter goes there, and they decide to check out this crate.
Yes.
They get in there, they pull the crate out from under the stairs, they take it to a nearby lab, and they decide to open it up.
Never open a crate from 1834.
Yeah.
That's a good
Rule one.
good rule of thumb there. And this crate was kept closed.
Closed.
It was chained up with padlocks
and hammered.
and then hammered in the nails.
Nails,
And so
yes.
obviously
don't fucking open the
don't
crate.
do this.
Yes.
Bad idea. So they get it almost open. I believe there's one nail left when they start to hear noises. And for some reason, the noises are adorable.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's like a chipmunk or some shit.
I don't
And it's like,
understand.
what?
And
Are
he's
there
like,
kittens in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah,
What is that?
he was tricking them. He's like, I better open. I love cats.
What?
So, hilariously, they open it up just enough to see a little bit, and the janitor sees the creature's eyes, and he's like, "Ooh, emerald!"
Yeah, emeralds. I don't think that's
They
what
look
you
like
seen.
a couple
Yeah.
of emeralds.
Yeah, I
They
don't
were
think that's
fucking
what that
eyes.
was,
They were a creature,
And-
and
The box was what, from 1834, he
Yeah.
said?
Yes.
January 19th, 1834.
June.
But don't, June, there you go. Wouldn't that box be a little more dirty than
Yeah, you
that?
would think so.
Yeah,
It
wouldn't
looked
you
a
think?
little-
Yeah,
yeah.
it was just
Kept
kind of
underneath the
dusty.
staircase,
Yeah,
and
just
for
kind
how
of dusty.
long?
Right, and how did it get there?
Like-
I mean, I get there's certain things you don't ask or you whatever. You know,
Yeah.
But you would think if it's been there, wouldn't it be a little dirty?
I would-
You know, it
I
be
would
a little
assume
more
so.
One
dirty
would
than
think.
I would assume so. This creature keeps a clean house, apparently.
that. He's just and just enough
Yeah, just-
chain so he can
and
wipe it,
Clean it
wipe
up.
it down a little bit.
He mistakes the eyes for emeralds, and he reaches inside, and he gets snatched.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Immediately.
With the quickness.
Yeah,
With the
right
quickness.
away.
The cuteness is gone.
Yes, and the colors come in again
Yep.
with the lighting, and
Yep.
it is amazing. Anytime anybody is in any kind of peril, the lighting
Dramatic.
is like
Uh-huh.
very incredible. So he's obviously in some kind of peril because this creature wants him, and he wants him now.
Right.
And so he gets pulled inside. The crate kind of falls a bit, and you get this great shot of the janitor halfway in the crate, and his arm, the blood that's coming off of his arm is such a cool effect.
Yeah.
It flows.
No, it looks really, really cool.
It looks incredible. So the janitor's done, and Dexter, he gets the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
He runs upstairs. He runs in the hallway. He bumps into a student who he's like the oldest looking.
Yeah.
I put
yeah.
that the student is comically stupid and also 40 years old.
Yeah, he was pretty old.
No, yeah, I
I mean, which older people do go back to school, but I
True.
mean, come on, that
But
guy
he's
was
like youthfully starting
yeah,
out like
right.
I
Hello,
kind of-
fellow classmates.
yeah, I had it written down. He looks like Andy Dick's father.
yeah, oh, God.
So it's very, very strange, but he tells the student what's going on, and the student, he seems to kind of be listening, and then he just doesn't believe him. And he's like, you're probably fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're, so let's go investigate. So he
Oh,
goes.
here's another case of someone getting exactly what they bargained for.
Oh, exactly. And so he goes downstairs, and they go into the lab where the crate was, and the crate's gone. And so now you got all this blood. It looks like Dexter just murked a guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the student is like,
Right.
what? And then they finally see the crate is underneath the stairs again. And so the creature's laying a trap.
Right.
All right, he's laying a real trap. They find the janitor's shoe, and for some reason, dude's like, we need this shoe because we got to test to see these bites or something.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. Something
Yeah.
about we got to measure the teeth marks. What do you
He
want?
got-
who gives
he
a
got
shit?
in
Yeah, who
there.
gives a
He
shit?
is
Yeah.
dead. Is this, what department is this?
And how many
Department
teeth
of
does
Meteors.
that fucking thing have? God, yes, it's the same department that covers
Yeah.
the meteors.
Yeah, they're multifaceted. So he kicks the shoe, or he uses
Right.
something to scoop the shoe back, and it hits Dexter, and he's like, my God,
Yeah.
because he's realizing, he's dead. So he leans in. Doesn't he lean close to the crate? And it turns out the creature's not in it at all. He's just been hanging out, and he takes a bite out of crime. He eats his ass. He doesn't eat his ass.
No, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not that kind of movie. So
No.
he arguably, in my opinion, one of the best special effects makeup shots in the film is when the creature takes a bite out of his
Oh,
ear.
yeah.
Right.
I will say the creature design,
Doesn't look great.
it's not great.
It's fair.
It's not
Right.
great.
It's fair.
And it's one of the drawbacks for me with the crate is that the creature is not as frightening. Do you remember that episode of The Twilight Zone where the guy it's William Shatner. He sees the monster that's on
Yeah,
the side of
yeah.
the plane, and the monster that's on the side of the plane is just clearly a man wearing a suit.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at here. The
But
crate
the effects
creature.
are so good.
Oh, they're fantastic.
But the zombie, I guess, and the first one is scarier looking.
Oh, 100%.
Harry
Oh,
and
yeah,
Becky and
yeah.
Something to Tide You Over are
Way
scarier
Yeah,
looking.
they do look better than that.
Yeah, but I mean,
Because it's like some kind of weird monkey thing or
Yes,
whatever. Yeah, and
he's
it's
yes.
like,
like an
eh.
ape, but he's got
Plu-
really sharp teeth.
Right. Plus,
but
if
the
you're,
damage is scary.
right, if you're
Oh, yeah.
making that little chipmunk noise, you know, I mean, you can't be frightening, and that's
Yeah, I'm not scared of
yeah,
that.
that's how
blew it
you're
before
rocking.
he
Yeah,
exactly.
you shouldn't have done that.
First impressions.
Yeah.
So, one thing I will say is that whenever the student sees him in underneath the staircase, when the creature opens his mouth and it looks like he's salivating from his teeth,
Yes.
Right.
that's a great
Yes.
shot.
No, yeah,
That's a
does look
very,
good.
very good shot. But the student is not long for this world.
No.
And he also gets eaten. Dexter sees this happen and he gets the hell out of there again. This is kind of his MO. He goes straight to Henry's house.
Yep.
I believe.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they had plans
To play chess.
Right.
They had plans to play chess beforehand, which Billy, Henry's wife, gave him a lot of hell about chess.
Yeah.
She was
Right.
very upset.
Yeah. But then she went to her classes.
What class?
But
Yeah.
she comes
what
back
classes?
drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that the name of the bar
It's
in
a
this?
bar,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
But she did say to have him gone before she got back.
She did.
Yes.
yeah.
So Dexter tells Henry everything. And Henry,
Is unbelievably calm.
yeah. And to his credit, I guess he must have known Dexter for a very long time because he believed him.
True.
And so he believed him so much, in fact, that he's staking his entire life on it.
Yeah.
And he's got himself a plan. He's got himself a scheme.
He does the next logical thing and roofies his friend Dexter.
Yes, which,
yeah.
as
I
you
wondered
do.
why.
As
It's like,
one
what?
does.
Yeah. With Dexter out of the picture for the time being,
He's out.
Henry heads to the university and he decides, all right, let's get this plan in action. He mops up all the blood.
This
He
was such
cleans up.
this was such quick thinking on
It
his part.
really was, which kind of makes you wonder how long. Like, he's like, man,
All I
got
need is a window.
Yeah, I got all the
Yeah,
plan together. I just need
yeah.
a creature.
All I need is
just need a creature from a crate. So his plan is to lure his wife to the university and let the creature do what he does.
Right.
Right. So he lures her there with the world's longest note.
the longest
Yeah,
note on
yeah,
the fucking
dude.
planet.
Yeah.
But can I just say her reading the note and like about the tea
No, it's
and the note is
it's fantastic.
one of the most relatable
Does
moments
she-
in the movie.
Does she pour milk and then liquor?
She's drinking
for a
milk
drink?
and liquor.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
And
kind of
then
drink
she
is
proceeds
that?
to take the milk
Yeah,
and
she
liquor
takes it
in
with
the
her.
car.
Yeah, she takes it with her because
which
when she
you're
gets off back
I think
at the
you're
schools
legally
and-
allowed to do that.
Yeah,
She's
right. As
still
long as
carrying
there's
it.
milk,
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
healthy,
She's still
right?
carrying
Drink
it
your
at the
calcium,
university.
yeah.
Yeah,
She's
I
still holding
noticed
it.
that in the shot when she's looking under the staircase. She's got it in her
Yeah,
hand.
what-
She's still holding
But
it.
so he lures her there with a story. I guess the story that he's telling is that Dexter was like making it sweet with some student, and then he
Yeah.
like beat
He
her
assaulted
up.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so Billy believes
she's
this,
like, "Oh,
and she's like, "Oh,
shit."
I'm there." And he's
Yeah.
like, "I need your help," because she always told Henry, "What would you do without
She
me?"
always says that.
And so he used that against her in the note, and he's like, "What would
You're
I do
so
without
good
you?"
in
Right.
these
So
situations.
so she gets there. She follows him, and he says that the student has cowered under.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up, and it's so fucked up
But
because
he's
he's laughing
laughing.
the whole
yeah,
time.
he is. She's
like,
like,
"Oh,
what's
I
wrong
can't-
with you? Is there, what's so funny?
He's laughing and wearing a very severe V-neck.
It's pretty
It's
harsh.
quite severe.
It's pretty harsh. So he gets her under the staircase, and then he just throws caution to the wind. Instead of letting her look, he just kicks. Doesn't he kick her in or push her in?
Yes,
Yeah.
he does.
Which is like, dude, your plan is working.
Yeah.
You don't have to rush this. Then he like slams her up against
Yeah.
the crate a lot.
Yeah, he's like, wake up or whatever.
Yeah.
He's yelling at the box.
He's
like,
ready.
and says, just tell it to call you Billy while he's banging her against
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
the crate.
I guess that's always pissed him off.
because
so
he says it again later.
he does because he's slamming her, and then she's obviously not happy with this.
yeah,
And when
She's not into
the
it.
creature doesn't appear, she's like, "What the fuck?" And then
Yeah.
starts hitting him with her purse, which good reaction.
Fair.
And so I don't know what key words the creature needed to hear.
It's like, this lady is a bitch.
Right. No, I'm gonna
Eventually.
eat you. Fuck it.
Yeah, it eventually works, and he.
I get it, Henry. I get it.
Yeah, he pops out.
I got
He
you.
takes a bite out of crime. So that's the end of Billy, basically. And yeah, and then he says the line, "Why don't you have him call you Billy?"
I think that he really just had that in the chamber. No
he
matter
was
what
ready.
bad thing happened to Billy, that he was.
Yeah,
gonna
he's
do
like,
that.
"I'm gonna do this." So the creature's done. He's had 3 pretty healthy meals tonight. And so Henry, to his credit, cleans up the mess. Everything. He gets the creature
Seals
in the
the crate
crate,
back up.
Right.
gets it locked, puts it in the back of his car, dumps it into a quarry, and then heads back to his house to talk to Dexter.
Who had a great night's sleep.
Oh, yeah,
He
he's
was
refreshed.
passed out the whole time.
Yeah. And he had a great question. He's like, how did you know that I wouldn't call the police? You know, honestly, you drugged me.
yeah.
And there's 2 dead bodies at the university. And he's like, well, you didn't.
Yeah.
So
Which is, I guess, a good answer.
I guess.
So,
and then they start playing chess.
Yeah, they start playing chess. And then the creature, I guess he's not done because he escapes from the crate.
No,
So
he got out.
how much time has passed though? Is this thing like you can breathe underwater, or how long
That's a
was
great
he under
question.
there? You
I wanna
he's
know more
kinda
about-
chilling under there.
I actually had that in my notes, and I'm all for a one-shot story where shit just kind of happens. Like in Jordy Verrill, I didn't find a need to learn more about the meteor.
No.
Right,
In this
right.
story, I wanted to know more about that creature.
No, absolutely. Where'd it come from?
What they had a
Right,
they
no,
had
yeah.
that
Yeah, where
specific
did
they
it
had
come
a
from?
specific date on that crate.
Yes.
What does that mean? Where did it come from? Like, I feel like more information could have been given on the creature itself.
I think the interesting thing about it is they had it dated on the crate and everything, like you said, but they're also well aware of what the creature was capable of, and they locked it up. It's like, who knew what about this creature in this crate?
Right.
I'd like to know.
That was just at the end, it's like he gets out and then it's like, well, how long have you been underwater?
Yeah.
It's like, goddamn, how long you holding your breath? It's like, you're the
How
real
big
one.
are you? Because that crate was
Yeah,
not very
right.
big.
Was it
Not at
half
all.
of a monkey?
Yeah,
or what was
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Plus, it was just 2 chains with the tiny little padlock.
Yeah.
How can you not break out of that?
He's no Ted Danson.
He's not benching
Clearly.
300 pounds.
Clearly.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of the crate as a whole?
I think that Adrienne Barbeau's performance was the story. She is fantastic.
Absolutely.
You love to hate her throughout the whole thing. You understand Henry
Yes.
Yeah, you
and his desperation.
You sympathize with it.
Yes.
Man, just kill her already.
She's
Fuck.
too much.
Yeah, but I think that's they had to make her that way.
Oh yeah.
so that you can be like, oh well, he did it for a reason, you know.
But again, the one that we're rooting for killed his wife. Is there a good person in this movie?
You know, it's really tough.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there one good person?
So far, the only good person is the maid from Father's Day.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
yeah,
all. And
that's it.
she-
she's
she
our
still
honorable
died. Yeah,
mention, and she's
didn't-
still dead.
Yeah.
she still died.
One thing I will say, and I like this about this movie in particular, especially with Adrienne Barbeau, especially with Stephen King, you can tell the actors are having the time of their
Oh,
life.
definitely.
Oh yeah,
They
you
Yeah.
can
love
tell
this.
that they're having fun making it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it translates on the screen. So the last tale, and arguably the most disgusting,
Definitely.
they're creeping up on you. This one stars E.G. Marshall as Upson Pratt. He's wealthy and he's incredibly cruel. He's a businessman and he has a variety of phobias, I guess. Mostly related to germs, I would say, but
Right.
also maybe some kind of agoraphobia.
Yeah, it seems like it.
He was ready for that Roronavirus. That fool had his
Oh,
own safe
yeah,
room.
he was.
His gloves, and he had it.
Well, he says he's paying $3,200 a month in 1982
But
for
what-
a germ-free apartment.
What is happening in the world that they think at that time where he has to live that way?
He doesn't have to. I think this is his choice because he's afraid of germs. He's afraid of bugs.
Yeah,
That's why
but-
it's
but
what did they say? It's 10 o'clock at night, and he's saying you need to call a pest service right now. Like
Right.
He's paying outrageous money for a supposedly germ-free apartment.
But what-
He's got like a panic room in his
Yeah,
apartment.
but it was an apartment, but he was also working out of there, wasn't he?
Yeah, he
Didn't
was, 'cause he was on the
phone with all these
business people.
lends credence to the agoraphobia.
Yeah, that
He had a lot of issues.
Yeah,
I think.
he
and
could
he
have-
was
a lot
a fucking
going on here.
asshole.
Oh,
And he was a racist.
no,
That was
he
his
was.
main. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was a
he
racist,
was.
and we'll get to that in a second. Like you said, this is supposed to be a germ-free apartment, but
Right.
he keeps finding cockroaches.
Yes.
Like it starts very small, just a couple
Right,
here and
right.
there. But he gets a call from an associate of his. I guess he had some business dealing where he was going to buy out another man's business.
Right.
Right.
And that man committed suicide. And he's like fucking over the moon about it. He's like, sweet, dude. When we gonna dance to that song from Father's Day? And he's chill. He's so cool about it. And shortly after that, he gets a call from the widow of the man who committed suicide.
Yep.
And he is even more of a dick.
And he's so pleased with himself.
Oh, absolutely. He's cracking jokes.
Just cruel.
The worst part is whenever he asks, how did you get this number? And she's like, it was from my husband's address book. And he's like, oh, well, I guess I can't fire him. It's like, you're a dick. You're the worst.
So unnecessary.
So she wishes death on him. You know, it kind of seems like there's some kind of a thread here. Except for Father's Day, because Nathan never wished anything or anything. And he just got brought back to life by the power of Jim Beam.
Yeah.
But in Something to Tide You Over, Ted Danson swears within.
I'll get you.
You know,
he
and then
does.
he comes
No,
back.
yeah.
And then she kind of sets everything in motion whenever she's like, I wish you will die, all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, a lot of people do. And he gets off the phone.
Yeah.
He's cartoonishly villainy.
No, absolutely.
Especially with that hair, man. That guy.
It's too much.
It's pretty ridiculous. His performance was pretty good, though, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
In this, yeah.
He did good.
But he was pretty cartoony.
Yeah.
So is it Mr. White who is like
Yes.
a building? I don't know if he's an attendant. He works in the building. He doesn't work specifically for Upson Pratt.
No, it's the building, I think.
So he works for the building and he speaks to Mr. Pratt through like a small window.
Right. Like big ass peephole or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way that I don't want to say reflection, the way that he's warped a little bit.
Yeah.
It looks a little eerie.
Yeah.
Right.
But I thought his performance was very funny.
He was funny.
But
because he was still talking shit.
oh
Like,
yeah,
everybody's
Right. No,
afraid of this
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
but
But
he
he's
was
like, I
still
don't
getting
care.
his digs in.
yeah. One thing I did like to point out was it seemed like Mr. White was kind of in disbelief as
About
to
the
what
bugs?
he was complaining about with the bugs,
Uh-huh.
Right.
which
right.
will kind of lead into a
But-
theory that I have later.
Yes. Okay.
So then he tells him about the bugs, and then he goes to make some food, which is the shittiest looking food I've ever seen
Right.
in my entire life.
What the
was
hell was
that?
he eating?
I don't know what he was eating. It looks like later you see that it's oats, but it
But it was
is
in a food
cockroach colored,
processor.
which is
Yeah, well, you could clearly tell those were raisins. They
they were, yeah.
But why? Who puts oats in a food? It looked.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what the
It
hell
looked
that
like
was.
he put
No.
raisin bran in a fucking thing and just kind
He-
of blended it up.
He put it to a fine paste.
Yeah,
It
but
looked
why? That
disgusting.
doesn't-
It looked
no,
really
it
bad.
Did, yeah.
And it's, of course, the perfect color for a cockroach to
hide.
chill out in. And they did. And so
Oh,
he
they did.
found roaches in the thing. This one's hard to kind of summarize because things just kind of accelerate at an alarming pace.
Quickly.
Because was it at this point that the blackout occurs?
At some point, a blackout occurs. It
Right.
all just
It
happens.
just happens so
happens.
quickly.
Right, yeah.
The crate's a very long segment. This one is pretty short.
It's
Yeah,
very
this
short.
one
It goes by
happens
really
quick.
fast.
Yeah.
This one does go pretty quick.
So the lights go out, and the number of roaches just keeps progressing. They're pouring through
They're covering
the
everything.
things.
But we don't even know what he's spraying the roaches with. The
No.
can has no label.
It
It's
doesn't.
just a silver
It
can
doesn't.
with numbers
And
on
at
it. It
one
doesn't-
point, he smashes a roach with his hand.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And then looks at his hand, and there's nothing there, and he looks confused.
Yeah,
Right.
So
I'm telling you, we're gonna get to that in a second
Okay.
because I do have a theory. So he locks himself in that room in the back
little
because
panic room.
it's gotten too much for him to
Right.
handle, and then that room also gets overwhelmed, and then that's
because the bed sheet starts moving.
yes,
Yeah,
and
and
also
he picks it up.
very interestingly, as he picks up the bed sheet, it's a crescendo of the widow on the phone.
Well, she
like
calls
she's
back.
making it happen.
She calls back.
because she calls
Oh,
back.
That's right.
I hope
Yeah.
You die.
And
What?
then-
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
As he pulls the sheet and she says die, that's when it's like all these roaches
and great
then,
music.
Oh,
very,
great
very
music.
Yes.
scary.
No,
intense.
yes.
Yeah, and I don't know how to describe this exactly, but listening to the music and seeing the roaches together, it made me want to kind of brush
Yeah,
myself
yeah.
off. It just made me very uneasy.
There's fucking roach over
Ugh.
there.
Exactly.
I hate it.
So locks himself in that room. The room gets swarmed. The camera cuts to the jukebox, which starts playing music, and then it cuts back to that room. Pratt is dead,
Yes.
but there's no bugs anywhere.
Right.
Not in the room and not in the rest of the apartment
No.
that was full. And then it makes a point to show the kitchen with the turned over oats.
Yeah, but there
that
was no
roaches were
or
in, and there's no
anything there
roaches
at
there
all.
either.
No, and there's nothing there,
No.
but they slowly start to burst out of his body.
Yes.
So all the roaches killed him by going inside of him?
there
That's
were
a
way
great
more
question.
roaches
There
than
were.
that.
Fun fact I read on Wikipedia, they used 20,000 live cockroaches.
Were
for
any
the
of those
segment.
roaches harmed in the filming of this video?
It
or-
sure looked like it.
I read this feature story about there's the people that they keep, like animal safety regulations as far as films go.
Right.
They include cockroaches.
Yeah, I don't even think you
on.
can kill a fly now.
Get the
You
fuck
can't
outta
kill
here.
Yeah.
anything anymore.
It's
I don't
a cockroach.
know what.
But what year was that instituted?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because it looked like he's killing some of
No,
those
well,
roaches.
no,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm on a movie with roaches and they're like, just do your thing,
all right.
I'm gonna smash his ass. You know what I mean? Fuck all
yeah.
that.
No, yeah.
And not in a sexual way. I'm just it's like that roach is
What
Yeah,
I
done.
hope
that
not.
roach is,
Yeah.
that roach is getting it. I think I want to know how much was actually the actor as far as the roaches on him.
Ugh,
Because
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know
that
how
would be
if I would have been
tough.
able to handle that.
Absolutely
Yeah,
personally.
that
not.
would be.
So the tale kind of ends there with Mr. White on the intercom, almost antagonistically
talking shit.
talking shit to
Right?
him.
No, yeah, he does.
He stayed
Yeah.
talking
Because he still
shit.
doesn't believe
Yeah.
him, which leads into the theory. I think me and Nay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it. I don't know that this really happened.
It doesn't seem like it did.
I don't
So
know if
then
he just
what?
had a heart
Yeah,
attack.
but all the roaches bust
how
out
did-
of him at the end.
Yeah.
So then
But
where
was
did
that,
they,
is that
those
like
come from?
symbolic of like his shittiness or like I don't know because I feel like we are literally being given proof that this is not real. Like I
Well,
said,
no,
they
yeah,
make it a
there's
point to
nothing
show
there.
him
Yeah, there-
literally, you see him smash it, and then he looks at his hand, kind of like, "What the fuck?" Because nothing's there.
It's so
the,
weird.
The
But what then?
whoever-
Why are those roaches coming out of him though? What is? I
I
mean,
don't
what is
know. And I literally put in my notes that I feel like this story leaves more questions than it does answers.
No, yeah,
No,
Because
yeah,
I feel like I
yeah.
kind of watched two at the same time.
Right.
Like this dude being overtaken, kind of his comeuppance again, revenge.
Right.
All these roaches, something that he hates, something that he's so against, something that he's afraid of. But at the same time, is this just some dude losing his mind? And I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but then what killed him? What, his anxiety got too much and he had a heart
Maybe
attack or
he
something?
did have a
or
heart
he-
attack.
I think it all comes down to the widow on the phone.
I mean,
I think she might have cursed
Like
him.
yeah.
the fact that she called back, I think at that moment
Yeah.
kind
Like
of
with
makes
the
it feel
crescendo
that
of the
way.
bugs.
Yes.
But I don't know that I believe it happened. But which, by
Another-
the way, great effects if you're not paying 100% attention to his body.
Yes,
If you just care about the
yeah.
roaches, it looks
It looks great, but
No,
you
yeah.
can tell
Yeah, you can tell.
in his head. You
Yeah.
can tell. But
So-
still.
but it's 1982.
Yeah.
True.
again, revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, another revenge
I feel like
story.
that is in almost every one of these, that's been an integral component.
Yeah.
Right.
So as a whole, how do you feel about that story?
I remember as a kid it being my least favorite.
I can agree with that.
I think
Yeah.
I would agree as well.
Yeah.
I think I would agree as well.
I think even today it might be my least favorite.
Yeah, I mean, because it doesn't. There's like you said, you're watching two different things at once.
That's what it feels like.
So you're kind of like, well, is he like freaking out about nothing, or
Yeah.
is he real? Is it a curse, like you said, or is it?
and
you
then
know
we
what's
still,
going
and then I
on?
feel like if they had just ended it at Mr. White talking shit, and then you show the clean apartment and you show him dead in his panic room. Okay, he was crazy, or he imagined
right,
it.
right.
Right.
But then we have this explosive scene of roaches bursting
everywhere,
out of his
yeah.
dead body.
Yeah. Which is
And the room was filled with roaches where he was.
it
at.
was when
Yes.
he died.
Yeah.
So,
But then I'm like, it's tough because is that the manifestation of his,
right.
or is this really going on?
Right.
I'd like to
Yeah.
know. I'd like to see another scene where Mr. White actually gets in there and he's like,
Right.
"What the
Right.
fuck,
Well, holy shit.
Mr. Pratt?"
Right.
So that brings us to the end of the Frame story as
Yes.
well, because after this tale, they end the story of Stephen King's son and Tom Atkins with the father throwing the comic in the trash can.
Right.
It begins the next morning with the garbage men finding the Creepshow comic,
the comic
in the trash. And one of the garbage men is played by Tom Savini.
I caught that too.
I didn't even notice that.
I also when they're looking at, because they find the comic that was thrown out.
Yes.
I think that it's a really cool reveal that they're like, oh, somebody already sent away for the voodoo doll.
I
think that's such a cool reveal.
I loved it so much.
Shit.
And I didn't catch that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't piece it together, but they go back to the house and Tom Atkins is talking to his wife and he's feeling stiff. He's feeling pain. And then they flash upstairs, and Joe Hill
is going ham.
Going ham on a voodoo doll.
That.
He's into it. He's pretty happy. One thing that was very interesting though was that stylistically the film ends with it fading into the kid being also part of the comic.
Yes.
So was it a frame story or was it also part of the comic book?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
It's such a great frame story, though.
Oh, it's so
good.
Like,
I really enjoy it. Even still.
I don't think an anthology can be made or broken by the frame story. I think the important thing of a frame story is to establish the tone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And to establish kind of what you're getting yourself into, which I feel like Father's Day after the frame story.
Yeah.
The perfect first story in the movie. You get that feeling. You're like, okay, this is what we're doing here. You know, and the frame story sets it up, and then Father's Day continues it on, and it just goes through all the chapters. So, not saying that it could, like I said, make or break, but it's very important, and they did a great job with that frame story.
Yes.
And good for Joe Hill.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk favorites.
That
of the five,
much harder.
Which is your favorite segment?
I could say the Swamp Thing guy.
The crate?
No, Jordy
Verrill.
Only because, like I said, because it's something that I remember as from a kid. I do also remember the crate, but I feel like Jordy Verrill was more. It made more of an impression on me.
Right.
And, I do remember the crate, but I don't remember a lot about the story. And I've seen that movie over and over. Mm-hmm. But then we haven't watched it in some time.
Right.
And then now we watched it again. And then it's like, okay, I missed this, and that. But Jordy Verrill, I remember. I remember it. I remember from
it does stick.
The time it starts until it ends. And it's like, I remember all of this. Mm-hmm. But so I'm going to shoot for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to shoot for that.
And it's kind of a one-man show.
Right.
Honestly.
It is.
Of a man who is not an actor. It's incredible. What about you, Nay?
That's really hard. I love the first three very much. I do like the crate, but the first three I think are the strongest. It's between Father's Day and Something to Tide You Over, I think. As far as a full story where you get the whole story.
All right, I see. Yeah.
It's torn between those two.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to make that decision on your own. I can't help you with that. I can't help you with that.
What about you, T?
I think that's very fair. Honestly, like I said, I've got so much nostalgia tied up in Father's Day. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. They set up a lot narratively by telling the story of Aunt Bedelia and everything in the beginning.
Right,
but it's not the most narrative of the three.
Right.
There's not a character arc. There's none of that. So I struggled to call it my favorite. So it's got to be within the first three. So for me, it's either Father's Day. I love
Jordy Verrill. Me too.
But Something to Tide You Over, I feel like is a very underrated.
And it's a full story.
It is.
And they bury it in the middle like it's not good.
And I feel like they made the mistake that a lot of anthology films make in that they ended on their weakest chapter.
Yeah.
You gotta build it.
You gotta start and end with the best, I think.
And can I just say, a 2-hour anthology, that did not feel like 2 hours.
No, it didn't.
It flows very well.
It does go pretty good.
So that kind of brings us to our final ratings. Mm-hmm. So out of 10 cockroaches, I feel very strongly giving it 7 cockroaches out of 10.
I would agree with that.
I also written down gave it 7 out of 10 cockroaches.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well,
and I can't say that nostalgia didn't play a factor in that decision.
Right.
But it is what it is.
It did. But watching it as an adult now has a different. It doesn't have a different effect on me because I do still like it.
Yeah.
But watching it as an adult now, you see it for what it is. Like you said, it's a lot of revenge stories.
Yeah.
And then, but you also get to see the mistakes that were made and
Yeah.
the fun that there was had that
But
they
exactly,
made.
but
and
regardless, it is still such a fun time.
no,
Like,
it is. You
fun
have
movie to
you
watch.
have
It
you
is.
enjoy watching it.
Yes.
You know, you enjoy watching it, and it's good stuff. And you know, like we all said, we'd watch it over and over, and it wouldn't bother us.
Anytime it's on.
But to say that it's like, you know, 10 out of 10, no.
No,
but
you
it's,
can't.
but
Not in
it
good
is
conscience.
good. It's great. So we're doing the 7 then? Everybody's in agreement
agree.
with
That
the
is
7?
so
That is
funny.
very
Right,
crazy.
7
And,
cockroaches out of 10?
Yes.
I'm into it. So as a bonus, we did want to point out all the times that marble ashtray is seen in the film, since it does show up in all the chapters.
Right. I found it on Internet Movie Database. Of course, we know when it's found in Father's Day and The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. It's next to the cash box in the Department of Meteors. And Something to Tide You Over, it's on the nightstand next to Richard's bed. And The Crate, it's on the writing desk when Henry writes the long ass letter to Wilma. And they're creeping up on you. It's the soap dish when Upson Pratt is washing his hands.
No way.
Yeah.
And in the wraparound story, it's on Billy's desk when he's going to ham on that voodoo doll.
It's even
wow,
in the wraparound.
even to the kids.
It's even in the wraparound.
I think that's part of the comic world, man.
It's so good.
That's crazy.
But
so
that's
good.
cool, doing something like that and having
Yeah,
it in
yeah.
every
so
single little...
cool.
Yeah.
No, that's really, really neat. Well, I guess that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate Creepshow, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at the Pod Mortem. Be sure to follow each of us at TravisMWH, at Blood and Smoke, and at RealStreeter84. Remember, never throw your kids' horror comics in the trash. Until next time.